Discipline over motivation, the secret to a received life. A story for young believers. The alarm rang at 5:47 a.m. Zara silenced it without drama, sat up in the half-dark of her room, and placed both feet on the cold floor. She did not feel inspired. She did not feel called by some heavenly fire burning in her chest. She felt tired, the same ordinary, unremarkable tired that greeted her every single morning. But she rose anyway. That small, unspectacular act rising before the world noticed was the beginning of everything. Zara Mensah was 23 years old, a postgraduate student in business administration at the City University, part-time assistant at a non-profit that helped young people find career direction. On paper, she looked impressive. Inside, most mornings, she felt like a phone running on 4% battery functional, but only just. Her campus friends were still posting late-night hangout photos at 2 a.m. Her notifications buzzed constantly. Parties, trends, group chats full of drama. She had quietly decided she no longer had the bandwidth for, not because she was self-righteous, not because she thought she was better than anyone, but because somewhere between her second year of university and now, she had made a decision, a quiet, costly, deeply personal decision to build a life worth receiving. She had written a verse on a sticky note above her desk, not as decoration, as a warning. I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. 1 Corinthians 9:27. Every morning those words stared back at her, and every morning she had to choose what kind of person she was going to be that day. By 6:15 a.m., Zara was seated at her study desk, her cornrows pulled back neatly, a glass of water beside her open Bible, her postgraduate research document open on the laptop in front of her. The green blazer she had ironed the night before hung ready, on the door like a quiet promise to herself. She did not begin with her phone. She began with prayer, short, honest, unpolished. Lord, I don't feel like it today, but you are the reason I move. That was the thing about motivation. Zara had learned the hard way that motivation was a feeling, and feelings were seasonal. During her first year of university, she had lived entirely on motivation. When a sermon fired her up on Sunday, she would study for 10 hours straight on Monday. When life felt grey by Wednesday, she would skip lectures, scroll social media for 3 hours, eat whatever was in reach, and pray maybe twice a week. She called it being human. God, she eventually realized, was calling her to something higher. It was in her second year, sitting in a corner of the university chapel, genuinely broken after failing 2 exams. She had been motivated to pass but not disciplined. Enough to prepare for that, she finally understood the difference. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the fuel. One starts the fire, the other keeps it burning when the wind turns cold and the night stretches long. She opened her Bible that evening in the chapel and stumbled. On to Proverbs 12:24. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. Proverbs 12:24. She sat with those words for a long time. She had not been lazy in the dramatic sense. She had not dropped out or given up entirely, but she had been inconsistent. And inconsistency, she realized, was laziness in disguise. The problem was never the big moments of failure. The problem was the small daily surrenders. The snooze button hit 5 times. The assignment started the night before it was due. The quiet time skipped because she didn't feel it. Today, those small surrenders, stacked together, had quietly become her character. She decided that evening to build a new one. By 9 a.m. the next morning and every morning since, Zara was at the non-profit office, blazer on, document in hand, seated for her weekly check-in with her supervisor. The office was modest, 4 desks, a whiteboard crowded with ideas, and the permanent smell of instant coffee. But to Zara it felt sacred. This was where purpose met the practical. Her supervisor was Daniel Osei, 28 years old, dark-skinned, clean-cut, always sharp in a well-pressed suit and a carefully chosen tie. He had joined the organization 3 years before Zara arrived, quietly and without fanfare. He was not the loudest person in any room. He was consistently the most prepared. His calendar was intentional. His responses were thoughtful. His goals were written down. His faith was not something he wore on a badge, it showed up in how he showed up. "How's the youth program proposal coming?" he asked, leaning slightly forward across the desk, eyes scanning the document she had placed in front of him. "Finished the second draft at 11 last night," Zara said. "I wanted it done before Thursday's board presentation, not the night before." He raised an eyebrow, not in disbelief, but in the quiet recognition of someone who understood exactly what that kind of choice cost. "That's the move," that he said simply. Daniel had said something to her once, early in her time at the organization, that had never left her. She had mentioned she was waiting until she felt ready to start her research proposal. He had looked at her not unkindly and said, "Zara, ready is not a feeling. Ready is a habit." She had gone home that night and written it in her journal. "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." Colossians 3:23. That verse had chased her from the chapel into the office, from the office into her bedroom desk, from her bedroom into every mundane task she once thought was beneath spiritual significance. Submitting an assignment on time was an act of worship. Showing up for a shift when exhausted was an offering. Preparing a proposal days in advance when no one was watching was faithfulness in the small things, and small faithfulness, she was learning, was exactly what God used to build large lives. The real test came at 2 p.m. Her phone buzzed with a message from the group chat. Amara, Tolu and Kemi, her closest friends from first year. "Come now, Zara. You've been MIA forever. It's just one evening. One night will not kill your GPA, babe. We miss you far." She stared at the screen. She did miss them genuinely. She was not above loneliness. She knew exactly what the evening would look like. Laughter, jollof rice somewhere loud, catching up on everything she had missed, the particular warmth of people who had known her before she had any of this figured out. She sat with the tension for a full honest minute. Then she typed back, "I love you girls. Thursday after my presentation, I am all yours, I promise. But tonight I genuinely cannot. Not this week. No lengthy explanation, no guilt performance, no apology for having a standard she had chosen for herself." She locked the phone face down on the desk and returned to her work. This was the part of discipline no one ever posted about. The quiet no, the unglamorous evening in, the choosing of the long road when the shortcut was right there, waving at you from across the street with a warm smile. People celebrated the results of discipline, the degree, the promotion, the testimony at the front of the church. But no one clapped for the 9:30 p.m. decision to go home and sleep, instead of going out. No one cheered for the assignment opened 10 days early. Nobody gave you a standing ovation for the phone placed face down. But God saw it. She who is faithful in little things will be trusted with much. Zara paraphrased Luke 16:10, under her breath as she opened her laptop again. Discipline was not punishment. It was love for your future self, practiced in the present. By 9:30 that evening, the day was fully done. Zara sat at her desk, the same spot she had started from 15 hours earlier. The proposal was polished. Her readings for the week were complete. Her quiet time had been kept before the day swallowed everything else. She looked at the sticky note above the screen, Paul's sharp, honest words about discipline and disqualification, and she felt something that was not pride, but was close to peace. The particular peace of someone who had kept their word to themselves. She pulled out her journal and wrote, as she did every night, 3 lines. What I was disciplined in today, what I will trust God with tomorrow, what I am grateful for right now. She closed the journal. She closed the laptop. She prayed, not a performance, not a lengthy religious exercise, just a real conversation with a God she had decided to trust with her life. Thank you for the grace to stay the course today. Don't let me grow weary. The harvest is coming. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. The received life was never going to be handed to you like a prize at a ceremony. It was grown, cultivated slowly, in the soil of daily obedience, watered by choices no one else witnessed. The Israelites wandered for 40 years, not because God forgot them, but because they kept choosing the feeling of the moment over the discipline of the covenant. Zara had read Judges enough times to recognize the pattern. She had seen it in her own first year. She had felt the dizziness of that cycle, the spiritual high, the slow drift, the consequence. The repentance, the repeat. She did not want to be the generation that wandered again. Discipline was never about being extraordinary. It was about being faithful to the ordinary things, long enough for God to build something extraordinary through them. It was the 5:47 a.m. alarm answered. The phone locked face down. The proposal finished early. The quiet time kept. The no spoken kindly but clearly. The journal opened one more night. These were not glamorous acts, but they were covenant acts. And a received life, a truly received life, was built on exactly these. You do not have to feel ready. You only have to begin, and then begin again tomorrow. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Joshua 1:8.